I'm Gwynneth Powell. I'm so thrilled that you've joined me to learn how to practice today. So just before we get started, we're going to need a list of props. It could be one prop or up to 5 props. I work with 5 props at home over our video series. I just wanted you to know that there is a home item, a home prop gathering kit, so everyday home items that you might have around your house that would replace some of the traditional yoga props. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here because there's a very lengthy video about it, and I show you how to do things, how to find your props and whatnot. But just a quick review about bolsters can be replaced with couch cushions, but just check the density. So it might look like a thick cushion, but when you sit down, it might be thin. So you might need 2, or you might need to find, maybe instead of the backrest cushion, you're going to use the seat cushion because they're more dense. Speaking of density and compression, same thing with blankets. This is a nice stack of 2 blankets. Single size are great. They fold up nicely, but any size will do. Again, as long as when you fold them up and you make a little platform, when you sit down, you see how much you sink. Okay, so just be aware of that. With your blocks, if you're required blocks, step stools, stacks of books, it could be even a low sort of table, something small. Many different things you could use for stools or for blocks, including the stools, as I said. And then in terms of props, a strap. So if you don't have a buckled yoga strap, you can use a necktie, bathrobe tie, you can use a fabric scarf. So we've got chair, blanket, bolster, straps, and blocks. So those are our 5 props. And just while you're going to press pause and make sure you've got everything near you, so also make sure you've turned off your phone, you maybe let your housemates know that you're going to practice so not to disturb you. And when you stretch your arms up, you have a shirt that's going to stay tucked in if that makes you feel more comfortable. Okay, so happy practicing, and I'm Gwynneth Powell. Can't wait to see you. Hi. Sometimes freeing up your body can free up your mind. And as my teacher, Mr. Iyengar, says, freedom in the body brings freedom in the mind. So today I'd like to show you 3 poses that you can do at home. I'll show you more general level, and then I'll also show you the more gentle adjustments that you can make. So we're going to do a supported upper back bend, a fish pose called Matsyasana, and it's not the full pose, but it's supported, you'll see. The second pose we're going to do is a child's pose, so Adho Mukha Virasana, and then the third pose we're going to do is a seated pose where we bend forward, and I like to call it Yoga Mudra, as one of my teachers called it, because it seals. Mudra is a seal, and when we rest our head on a block at the end of a sequence, it sometimes just can really help us to seal in the goodness that we brought to ourselves. So we're going to start with the back bend, and you'll need a block and a blanket and a bolster. I'm quite fond of doing it with a rolled blanket. In fact, if you did it with a rolled blanket, just like that, you might not need anything else. So you come back, I bring the mat to the rolled blanket just so it's coming out under my armpit, so it's in the upper chest, and my head, I can even support it, and I place it down. If this is very uncomfortable, it's okay to have the chin a bit higher here unless it's not comfortable, in which case you would need a second blanket. But I'm hoping that this would be okay for you. You can hold one elbow and then flip these fingers inside and stretch the arms, and the leg position could stay with bent knees, but if your hips and your back feel okay, you come into a cross-legged pose. Full Matsyasana would be into a half Padmasana, And then the full would be, if that feels comfortable for you. It's not super comfortable for me at the moment. Days change, bodies change with the days. Maybe tomorrow will be different. So do what you need to do for your body now. The other option, a little higher, and that's how you will come out, is to roll to the right. The other option is to use this blanket as a pillow. And I like to say it's easier to throw a prop away if you don't need it than to be looking for it if you do need it. So I'm going to give myself, that was a 3-fold. I changed my mind. Let's do a 4-fold. So a really thick pillow. Because if we don't need so much, we can always flip it down, and then we've got, you know, a little bit of height, but not so much. This is going to be, again, in the upper back. So just this area, not the waist, but up here in the upper back. We can use a block just in case we might need a little support under the back. So to come in, start with bent knees, come onto your elbows. Move the buttocks away so the low back is long here. Now, I've got this here in case it's too much. You can put a little support underneath your buttocks, and if the block is too high, use a blanket. So I do like to support the head here. So I open the chest, move the buttocks away from that support, away from the bolster. As you come back, you see, okay, well, there's the head. You see my head is still thrown back quite a bit. The chin is much higher than the forehead. In the classic pose, you're on top of the head, but we're not doing that. Just a little bit thrown back. If you want more height, if you know right away, oh, I'm not going to be happy there, then you can do this just like this. You notice now my head and my forehead are more in line, and the arms are just coming out of the bolster. Buttocks are long, so you want to keep scooping the buttocks away from your bolster, especially if you're feeling any sensitivity in the low back. So I'm going to do the classic, that was the bolster and the blanket. So you see how much height you can take if you want. This is comfortable for me. And then the legs, this is a very neutral position. The other position, as I showed, would be simple cross legs. So you can do this. And you can also change the crossing of your legs. Or you can do Padmasana, whichever legs feel best for you. So I see I can manage holding my head here, but after about, 30 seconds, I feel, maybe I'm not so happy. I want a little bit more height. So I hold my head, I lengthen it out, and as I hold my head up, I'm just going to take, I don't need quite so much support with the block, but just a little support. Oh, and I notice right away in my breathing. So you notice too, if your breath can be long and soft and smooth, then you've taken the right support. If you find your breath is holding, or your breath is jerky, or anything that's not smooth and even, then I think you might want to take a little height under the head, or possibly a little height under the buttocks. So you can readjust as you wish. I'm going to assume that you're finding your place now. So bring your attention to your breath, and specifically just see that your breath, like I said, it's long and soft and smooth. It doesn't have to be a certain pace. It doesn't have to be fast or slow. It just has to be long and soft and smooth. So you're not panting, you're not, taking a big breath and then holding it. It's just smoothly going in, smoothly going out. And when you find your breath is completely out and you're settled in your pose, when your breath is completely empty, try keeping the breath out just for a moment or two before you let the in-breath come. So it would be a soft, slow inhalation, followed by a soft, slow exhalation, and then empty. With being empty, just pause for a moment or two, being still in the moment. And then let the in-breath come in naturally. Don't hold it out too long, just a moment or two. When you exhale and your belly is empty, practice seeing that in this moment, in this body, all is well. Change the crossing of your legs. Contentment is one of the 10 steps to yoga, to inner peace, enlightenment, feeling at one with yourself. However you want to call it, there are many ways to call it. Practice contentment. The yogis didn't say be content. They said practice contentment. That means it's something that we need to do on a regular basis. Just watch your breath. Inhale, exhale. When you're still, when you're in the moment, practice seeing that all is perfectly well in this body, in this moment. They say contentment is a state of mind. We just have to change our thoughts. Opening the body helps us to open the mind. We'll take a deeper breath in now. We're going to bring one knee up, bring the other knee up, bring your feet flat on the floor. So to come out of this pose, again, a little sensitive in the neck, you just take your arms, take your hands behind your skull, and just lift your skull up. And then we're going to roll with the left hand coming across the chest all the way to the right side. And here, just take some breaths on your right side. You can either close your eyes, or if you do have the eyes open, just keep them focused about just about 12 inches in front of you, and keep your eyes still. When it's time to come up, you'll push your left hand into the floor, stretch your left leg out, and begin the sitting up process. So now, to counteract a little bit of that stretch, to neutralize a bit, we're going to come into Adho Mukha Virasana, which is pose of the child. So you might need more height. Some people, and if you still find this a bit too low for you, then take your block and you can even turn it on a higher end, like that, maybe somewhere about 2/3 of the way up the bolster. And so then you sit on the heels, keeping the heels down, start to hinge just in the hip crease. So it's no lifting of the buttocks here. It's just hinging in the hip crease and coming down. So you can lift that up higher. You can remove some of the extra props if you don't need all of them. There is a blanket. Some people like to have their head straight down. So you can have your forehead just on a bit of a rolled blanket here. Either stretch the arms up or keep them down. You can even turn the palms over if you want to really relax the shoulders. If you don't want the blanket, you can have your head straight down. Depending on the size of your chest, you might want to have a little bit of height here for the head. So I'm on the ear, and the only thing to really know when you're turning your head is you want to keep the back of your neck long. So when you turn your head, you're looking, your chin stays towards your chest. So this stays long, and I come over to the opposite side, towards the cheek, or I might turn a bit more and be on the ear, but really make sure you can let go. If you feel any tension, then you maybe need to just be a little closer to the nose. As you see, it's not quite a turn, as opposed to really turning and my nose is up. So that's more of a stretch on the neck. So monitor yourself. Each side will be different. So as you're doing here, turn your head, take 3 or 4 breaths on each side. And then when it's time to come up, you push your hands into the floor, sit yourself right up, and then we're going to come into a forward bend called Adho Mukha Sukhasana, or it could be Yoga Mudra, as I said. So sitting in happy pose. Some people need some height to sit on in this pose. So by all means, take as much height as you need. Maybe I'll do this sideways so you can see better. This is one blanket, which it's nice. I feel a difference with one blanket, but you might need more than one blanket. So if your knees are much higher, if you feel like you can't easily lean forward, if the knees are up here, you might already have your rib cage on your thighs or towards the thighs. So we want to try and have the thighs down, and the rib cage comes down towards the thighs when we come forward. So you can have a bolster, a block. Now it just depends. So this is starting up at a medium height. I'll show you a low height and I'll show you high height. So medium height gives me enough height for my forehead, and I also, and my elbows don't reach the floor because I'm up high, so it's nice to have my hands turned over with my forearms resting on the bolster. So that's the medium height. Of course, you can take this down at any height, but at some point you might just not need the bolster, and then you might just come onto a block and then your elbows reach the floor. So you see what you need. And then the other higher option would be just to have a chair nearby. And you can put a pillow on the chair for comfort. And some of my students need more height than that. So you put that. There we go. Okay. It could be something like that. And I've even seen even more. Okay. So it doesn't matter whether you get your head on the floor or, the farthest you can get your head is to this block. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you are doing the best pose for your body, and then you will get the natural opening that comes with that. If you force yourself to do something that, put your head on the floor, for example, it might just hurt you. So always be checking in with yourself to see what, from day to day, what sort of support you need in order for you to keep your breath long and soft and smooth, so that you can really collect the nectar of the pose. Because if your breath is not long and soft and smooth, you maybe need a different prop so that you can find that expansion in the lungs, expansion in the mind, because when you're relaxed and your breath is calm, then your mind can also be relaxed. Otherwise, you're in a pose, you're like, oh, that kind of doesn't feel comfortable. And what's the mind saying? Oh, when can I come out? Oh, I hate this pose. Oh, I shouldn't have come to yoga. Whatever the mind does, right? So let's work together and find what you need. It's called a practice. It means it's different every day. So I'm going to end here. And we'll change the crossing of the legs. So I really encourage you to do this, with me, with the video. I'm only doing 3 poses, so I'm hoping that you might be able to remember them, and I would love to hear if you did remember them and if you could do them. So every day, do these 3 poses, unless you have something better to do. But here's my recommendation. And again, just for those of you who are a little bit lower, it's looking more like that. But what I want you to notice here is, if I pull my neck a little more open here, you can see that my neck is horizontal to the ceiling. So if I took a low block, for example, and I tried to reach my head down, you see what's happening? So when we rest our head, we want to feel the full weight of the head is into our support, whether it's the bolster, the chair, or the block, and that the back of the neck is completely relaxed. So you feel when you put your head down, the whole weight of your head goes and the neck is not doing any holding at all. Okay, so just, and if you're not sure, try something. You're not sure, go up a little higher and see how it feels. So please join me again. We're going to do some other videos, a little more challenging. I would say this is more entry level, you know, gentle type of approach. And stay posted and keep practicing, and happy practicing. I'm Gwynneth Powell, signing off.